If you're watching this video, there is a good chance that your favorite team may be acquiring Dougie Hamilton, the 6'6" right-handed defenseman that every team dreams of being their number one power play one quarterback. Let's get into it today. I'm the fantasy hockey expert. I'm going to be going over the Dougie Hamilton trade rumors and his top 5 possible trade destinations. Once again, I'm the fantasy hockey expert. If you guys don't know me, I do fantasy hockey advice. Oh, fuck. If you guys don't know me, I am on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube at the Fantasy Hockey Expert. I give advice, rankings, and trade advice. So give me a shout, give me a follow, like, subscribe for more, and let's get into today's video. So Dougie Hamilton is a guy who started his career in the early days with the Boston Bruins. He had a couple good playoff runs with the Bruins where they didn't get it done, but he was a big part of that team. That was the days where Torrey Krug was on the team, Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, even some of Nathan Horton's days. So Dougie Hamilton's been in the league a long time. A little bit of fun background information. He actually played for the Niagara Ice Dogs, and before that he actually played for the St. Catharines Falcons. So if you guys follow junior hockey at all, in Ontario, you know the St. Catharines Falcons are a pretty good organization, pretty close to Niagara Falls, where I went to school at Brock University. But with that being said, it's pretty interesting to see that he was an Ice Dog along with some other good players like Jason Robertson and a lot of these future NHL players like Ryan Robrick and a lot of these guys who maybe should have made Team Canada, but that'll be another day, another video. So with Dougie Hamilton, he has already played for 4 NHL teams through, call it 12 seasons, but he's been effective on pretty much every one of those teams. He's made an impact. He's had some good playoff runs, especially with the Carolina Hurricanes, where I want to say he came as close as he's gotten. Now, unfortunately, the New Jersey Devils announced that Dougie Hamilton's going to be scratched today, not just for trade purposes, but because Jonathan Kovacevic is returning to the lineup. And with that being said, you can't scratch a guy who's making $9 million. So it's time to trade Dougie Hamilton way before the trade deadline, but it's time to trade him to a team that needs to contend. The standings in a lot of these divisions are way too close. And so specifically the Atlantic Division, we're seeing the Ottawa Senators in last place, and we're seeing that they're only 9 points behind the division leader, which is the Detroit Red Wings. So that's something we've probably haven't seen in a long time. It's pretty crazy, and that is why we're going to go into the top 5 trade destinations for Dougie Hamilton, the Toronto, Ontario native. So really excited to get into these, and we actually are going to be doing some fantasy implications by discussing Dougie Hamilton's fantasy ceiling. We know he's been elite in past years for fantasy owners, but I'm going to be real here with you guys and discuss how elite he could be, or if he even could be elite with these 5 teams. Let's get started with number 5. That is the 5th best team to land Dougie Hamilton in my eyes, and that is the Detroit Red Wings. A team that's currently sitting first in the Atlantic with some new faces in their locker room. You got John Gibson, who has been a stud. I mean, he had a shutout over the Habs last night. This could be a fit for Dougie Hamilton if he wants to go to a team that is high in the standings at the moment. He could pick the Detroit Red Wings, who could use a number 2 defenseman and second best right-handed defenseman behind Mo Seider. Now, if Dougie Hamilton wants to be the number 1 guy, this might not be the right place because you do have a lot of young guys getting a lot of ice time. You also have a few veterans like Ben Sherratt who are still putting in heavy minutes, and it's not guaranteed that Hamilton's going to gel with this team. So I don't know if Yzerman's going to be a big fan of this. I don't know if Hamilton's going to be a big fan of this, but Detroit could make room if they're able to get rid of Justin Hall's contract potentially, or if they're able to have New Jersey retain some salary. So Detroit's at number 5. Let's get into number 4 for you guys. Number 4, one of my favorite teams, no bias, but the Utah Mammoth, guys. This team's a wagon. I've mentioned in previous videos, I love Vejmelka and Net. I think he's a proven number 1 goalie. You've got Mikhail Sergachev, who's a proven number 1 defenseman, absolute dog in him. But you do lack a little bit of right side depth on that team. And so there's a spot for Dougie Hamilton on that team. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the number 1 defenseman, but he could definitely be a big piece of their power play 1 or power play 2, along with logging top 4 minutes. There's definitely opportunity for him to play with a guy like either Mikhail Sergachev or a smaller name, but not only that, but he's able to replace Nick DeSimone as the 6th defenseman and then swap into the top 4 where you have some weaker guys who have given up, I guess, some high-end chances to Vejmelka, who currently sits with an 8.98 save percentage. Now, the reason this also fits Utah is because they're not in a playoff spot, but they're making strides. They're making progress. They've only been, the Utah Mammoth for a year here and Utah Hockey Club for an extra year. But with a lot of those off-season additions they made, they're showing that they really can win some games. A lot of big wins recently. Vejmelka's 8-2-0. That team is good, but they need to be great, and Dougie Hamilton could do the fix. They also have a lot of cap space to make that work, so it'd be pretty easy. You wouldn't even have to retain any of that $9 million for the next 3 years. Let's get into number 3. I know you guys are ready for these top 3 because a lot of them are, I want to say, relative to Dougie Hamilton's kind of style of play and where he really needs to kind of sit in a lineup to thrive. So let's get into number 3. That is the Buffalo Sabres, a team that's been red hot as of late. You talked about firing their coach or GM probably a month and a half ago, and then things just changed. You have them firing from all cylinders. You've got guys like Alex Tuck thriving every night, Tage Thompson sniping every night, Zach Benson grinding every night, and whatnot. But you lack a number 1 right-handed defenseman. You don't lack size necessarily because you got a big boy in Owen Power, but you don't have a number 1 right-handed defenseman. You have a lot of good lefties. You've got Matthias Samuelsson, who's kind of developing well. You've got Owen Power, Rasmus Dahlin, and the list goes on. Now, Dougie Hamilton would play really well with either of Owen Power or Rasmus Dahlin, in my opinion. I think even with Matthias Samuelsson, maybe on like the third pair, he's probably going to want to play more minutes, but Buffalo has the cap space. And Buffalo, if they want to make a push here, they're currently sitting in wild card 2 in the Eastern Conference. This would be a guy you got to go after if you want to really improve your blue line. He's due to bounce back, and he is from, again, right across the border. This is one of those bit of almost rival sides where you have to cross the border, go through your old town to get to Buffalo. But I think they can make this work. I don't know when the last time Buffalo added a guy like this was, but I mean, there's some good veterans in that locker room like Jason Zucker, and Dougie Hamilton would add well to that list. So without that being said, let's get into number 2. I'm really excited for number 1, but we do have to get to number 2 first, guys. That is the Dallas Stars. Now, I did say I was going to go into the fantasy implications, and let's go into Dallas's quick, which if Dougie Hamilton was traded to the Dallas Stars, he would have a moderate impact. That also goes for the Buffalo Sabres, where he would have a moderate impact, not being on PP1 most likely. Again, with Utah Mammoth, we also have a moderate impact where you probably wouldn't be playing power play 1, but you could put up points with that really skilled team you have. And unfortunately with Detroit, you're looking at a low fantasy ceiling, kind of like where he's at in New Jersey. And I will save the last one for when we get to it. With the Dallas Stars, though, you're actually seeing Leon Bichel injured on long time at LTIR. You're seeing that Heiskanen and Harley are thriving on the left side, but you're really lacking the right side depth. You're seeing Alex Petrovich, Kyle Capobianco, couple of guys that you just don't really need in your lineup if you really want to go on a cup run. Dougie Hamilton can be that fix. You also have Esa Lindell, who's a left shot, so you're lacking the right shot when it comes to veterans and guys who are good defensemen. I mean, Niels Lundqvist still developing, but I really think you need Hamilton to go and play with a guy like Heiskanen. That'd be a pretty crazy pair, the H pair. Now, the problem is the cap, or else they'd probably be number 1 on this list. But it's going to be tough to make that work. You're going to have to trade some cap. Maybe it's in a guy like Duchesne. Maybe it's shedding some cap somehow. But can it work? I don't know. You guys got to tell me in the comments. Would you see Dougie Hamilton winning a cup with the Dallas Stars? I could see it, but I don't know. They're a good team. They're kind of thriving. Some tough losses recently, especially that one to the San Jose Sharks. But could Hamilton get over that hump? I don't know. Now, let's go into our final pick here. I think this is where Dougie Hamilton's going to end up. And that is, it's tough to say as a Bruins fan here, but I think Dougie Hamilton's going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. And the Toronto Maple Leafs would give Dougie Hamilton his elite fantasy form. They would give him an elite fantasy ceiling as the power play one quarterback and the number one defenseman. You did hear that right. The number one defenseman on the Toronto Maple Leafs would be Dougie Hamilton. Making $9 million for the next 3 years, you would have New Jersey retain 50%, hopefully, now maybe 25% of his salary, and New Jersey would definitely be interested in some of these future assets from the Toronto Maple Leafs, which could include, but are not limited to, Easton Cowan, Nick Robertson. I'm not going to say some of these other high-end guys, but there are some decent defensive prospects along with a couple of guys out of college. And you know what? They can make this work. If they want to continue where they are, the Leafs, this last 10-game roll, they're going to need to add a guy like Dougie Hamilton. They are brutal on the blue line. You also have Chris Tanev, who's out long-term when it comes to right shot defensemen. I believe that Dougie Hamilton and Jake McCabe would make a great D pair. Let me know what you think, but I think that would be a great D pair while you have Riley and Carlo on the first pair. So as much as it sucks to say, I think Dougie Hamilton goes to his hometown and delivers. And doesn't mean he wins a cup, but I think he delivers as the number one defenseman and keeps his career going as a top pairing defenseman. So that's my top 5 list, guys. I really want to know what you guys think, and I will be making another video today, not only on this topic, but a Week 15 preview of fantasy hockey, where there is a team in the NHL that plays 5 games next week. So stay tuned. Make sure you guys are followed on Instagram, TikTok, and subscribed on YouTube, and we'll see you guys next time.